Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're coming from in the world and tuning in. Thank you for coming back to the Elite Guard Patrol Services YouTube channel. My name is Jonathan Hamilton. I am the Operations Manager for the Elite Guard Sunny Isles branch.
And I am Mariah Addy, the Payroll Manager for Elite Guard Sunny Isles branch.
And today we're going to be giving you some behind the scenes look at a conversation that we had reference our payroll department, some of the mechanisms and processes that we go through as an organization to provide our customers with an excellent service. So we hope this content for you today is a value add. Whether you're a security officer, a property manager, a board member at an association, we just hope that you can take some value from this and recognize that Elite Guard Patrol Services has been around for 42 years for a reason, and it's because of our dedication to infrastructure. And so joining us today is Miss Mariah Addy. She is our payroll department manager. Say hello to our viewers.
Hello.
All right, she is responsible for the proper submission of all of our employee timesheets and time records for the employees. There's also a little bit of, accounts payable involved in that with our customers and the billing process. So she's going to take us through some of that. But before we get to that, I wanted to touch on some of her beginnings with Elite Guard. We're a firm believer in promoting from within. It's a much more, I think, trustworthy metric than, reaching outside of our, talent pool within the company. And so, Miss Addy, if you would, go ahead and introduce yourself to our viewers and tell us a little bit about how you first started with the company and what that looked like for you.
Absolutely, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. So as Jonathan had said, my name is Mariah Addy, and I am the payroll manager for Elite Guard. I started with Elite Guard in July of 2021, and I actually started as the receptionist, if you can believe it, at Elite Guard, and this was actually my very first office job that I ever had. So I started as the receptionist, receiving calls, transferring calls, receiving people in the lobby that were there to get a job, or employees, and dealing with the front of office, and so I started as the receptionist, and then over the course of that year, I actually moved more into human resources in terms of the filing and the uniform aspect of it. I started there, and then a little down the line, I actually ended up as the assistant in human resources, and then what led me to being the payroll manager of Elite Guard. And I've been in that position for 3 years now, I believe, and it's been great.
Now, you covered a lot of territory there, obviously, in terms of, positions and functions and responsibilities. Is it fair to say that with every new position came a new challenge that you had to face?
Oh, absolutely. Every position definitely has its challenges. I feel as reception, you deal with a lot of different types of people. You're constantly dealing with people coming in and out of the lobby, the phone's ringing off the hook, and you got to make sure you answer it, because if it's a client or if it's, an employee who may need something, we want to make sure that we are efficient in answering phone calls and transferring them to the correct department. So there was challenges there, as well as I feel that filing and uniform, as crazy as it may seem, what could go wrong in uniforms? Folding,
right.
Issues.
That's a bad crease.
Absolutely, but actually I would say that with filing, it's just making sure that we have all of the proper documentation, making sure the files are up to date with all employees, D licenses, many of licenses. Since we deal with so many government agencies as well, we need to make sure that in the human resource department, which filing and uniforms are a part of that, that everything is up to par. And especially with the government being involved, we need to make sure that that is done to their standards. So there was challenges there as well. Sure. And even moving into human resources, it is definitely tricky territory, as there are many challenges with that, not just internally, but externally as well. You're dealing with a lot of employees, possibly sexual harassment, or, allegations, or you're dealing with the state, the Department of Agriculture, as we deal with very much many of times, as well as, the USCIS?
US,
yes. The immigration, department of, many of departments that we work with in the human resources department. So there were challenges there as well. And then of course leading into payroll, which is what I do now. Payroll, many of challenges, obviously it's dealing with money. And as we all know, money is difficult. So there are many challenges that come with it. So yeah.
Obviously, as you started out, receptionist, and then segued into human resources, and from there into the next department, it's almost as if, and correct me if I'm wrong, there was a comparable nature to each department in terms of being efficient, being organized, having structure, right? So you started building time management.
Absolutely, was a huge.
So there were building blocks there that had to get honed in on with each segue into each new department, but they were all complementary.
And I will say that with that movement from starting with reception and all the way into being a manager of payroll, I think there was a lot of things that I learned from each position that I've taken into this managerial position now. Organization, time management, how to manage people and different personalities was definitely a huge challenge, as well as just knowing my personality and knowing what works, because that's definitely, and I can say as payroll, organization and time management was probably the biggest thing that I learned in my time, being an Elite Guard. Definitely need to be organized in order to manage people's money. It's necessary. So
I think that segues perfectly into my next, kind of line of questioning here. Looking at dealing with people at the level that you would have had to as a receptionist, again, inbound calls coming in like crazy from all types of people, employees, clients, prospective clients, and just members of the general public, residents, right? So that feature and that skill set of dealing with people had to be carried over, obviously, into human resources, and certainly into your role now as a manager. So as a manager now, having gone through that extensive, I guess you would say, crucible of training, through every department, what's the hardest challenge now currently as a manager of a department, and how many people are in your department that you're directly responsible for?
So I'm directly responsible for 2 employees, and although that may seem small, it is, we are a department that thrives on teamwork and communication, and I feel that that's probably one of the biggest challenges that I've faced as a manager, is being communicative and making sure that my employees understand that to communicate to me whatever issues or problems they may be having, work related or personal. It's very important to be the leader that everyone wants you to be, but as well as you have to know when to exercise strength and when to be kind and compassionate to people's situations, while still keeping in mind we're running a business at the end of the day. And so I would say that was probably my biggest challenge in switching from a position in which I wasn't really in charge of anybody, moving to a position where people look to me for guidance and look to me for how do we deal with this particular situation, how do we go about this, and and then there I am directing them, okay, well actually we should say this, we should do this instead. So that it's definitely, but with myself I feel very secure in doing it, so I've gotten better over the course of time, so I think that it's become easier over the past couple of years.
And kudos to you for being transparent in that, and being vulnerable in that, because a lot of times I think what happens is the misconception, and this may be true for the viewers, is that they think that once they arrive to that place of leadership or management, that all the pieces just fall in place. And it's like, now I just get to tell people what to do, without recognizing that you can tell them what to do. That doesn't mean they're going to do it. And they're going to execute it to your standards, or I should say to the standards of the organization. Because there is a persuasion element to that as well. And that's far harder a skill set to manage and master than just putting on the title of I'm a manager and now do what I say. So I would say that for you recognized early on that being an approachable person was an important feature to 100%. Your character that you had to
and it was
upon.
Definitely the switch from colleague, coworker to now manager, which was, because there's a level of respect that also has to be there in order for our relationship to work as coworker and or colleague to manager. I think that's very important that there is a certain level of respect, because at the same time, and it comes with myself and you as well. You being the operations manager running the show, and I'm one of your many managers that you oversee. I think we have that that relationship where we've been very communicative with each other, as well as understanding what the organization's standards are and making sure we follow that, as well as excel in that area, because that has what we have been tasked to do as managers.
Certainly.
To make sure we exceed the expectations that are set out for us. So, and I definitely think that as managers, we definitely create an air of a unit being together and being one, being on the same page, and being a front,
being on one accord.
Correct.
Yeah, being on one accord. And I think that, you just hit the nail on the head. Our mission statement basically says we want to professionalize the security industry by exceeding the expectations of our clients and
Absolutely.
The needs of our employees.
And it starts in the office.
And that starts in the office.
Absolutely.
It starts with all of our people.
With all of our departments. And our business itself, it's extremely interdepartmental with the way that we work with one another. It could start with the hiring process. It starts with personnel,
sure.
and as well as client, working with the client to fit their needs and their standards, as well as working with personnel to hire the appropriate people for that position. And then moving into human resources, they onboard all new hires and help them with their paperwork and, get them with their uniforms and everything. Moving into dispatch and scheduling and
right.
putting them on the schedule,
sure.
and moving into payroll, making sure that they're getting paid all the hours that they've worked in that pay period.
Sure.
So every department works together in making sure that we are one Elite Guard.
Sure. And that's a big word, interdepartmental, right? For
Right.
the viewers, I want them to lose that in translation.
Right.
Basically, that's a real technical term. We need each other.
Absolutely.
And we need each other to operate on the same bandwidth, on the same frequency, efficiently, right? In each department properly, because one affects the other.
Absolutely.
Directly and indirectly.
Right.
And so if, for example, the dispatch department schedules someone on our deputy platform and the schedule is not proper, that bleeds over into the payroll side of things in terms of the timesheet and, well, how many hours should they be approved for?
Absolutely.
How long was that person actually on site? When did they leave, right? And that goes right down to the employee, right? Clocking in and clocking out, right?
Which is a big thing that we stress in our department. And I'm glad that you brought up deputy, because for our viewers, I'm not sure if you've spoken about deputy to them.
Please,
so deputy for our viewers is a clocking in and clocking out scheduling app that we use with our employees. Essentially how it works is it's an app that you download on your phone, iOS or Apple, and you can clock in and clock out, and the deputy department can go in and look at the timesheet and see, because it is a geofenced app, as you know, where you've clocked in from and at what time and the date, as well as where you're clocking out from, and in proximity to where the property is. So, which is extremely helpful. Rather than doing written timesheets as they used to, the deputy app has definitely sent us forward.
A lot of the 90s.
Yes, we've definitely gone forward in the new age of technology with deputy, because it's been very forward thinking. It's helped with every department uses it. In personnel and human resources, we all use deputy because it's such a great app to use for scheduling and timesheets, as well as just keeping our personnel files and reports for invoicing, for accounting purposes. So it's a great app to use, and I'm glad that that's most of what my department does is deputy and approval of timesheets.
Yes.
As you know.
Perfect segue.
Yes.
So we've touched on the people, right? Most importantly, because you can't do any of this without people, right?
Correct.
We need the humans, right? And then we touched on the kind of technology side of things, right? But there's also that third leg to that, which is the processes, right? So what would you say your daily ops looks like for your deputy department on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis? What does that look like for you, and what does that look like for your team?
Okay, so with deputy and the deputy department, because we're deputy / payroll, so with deputy, our daily task would be to look at the previous day's timesheets, and it's separated by properties and by their names and the employees who work under that specific property. And both of my deputy girls have their own specific properties that they work on, and they do that every single day. They look at the timesheets, they approve the timesheets. If there's any issues or problems with the timesheets, maybe somebody forgot to clock in, maybe someone forgot to clock out, then they would call the employee employee, speak with them, confirm their timesheets and whatnot. So that's usually what the deputy girls do during the day. Myself in payroll, what I do on a daily basis is I come in, depending on the week, whether it's a payroll week or a non-payroll week, maybe we have advances that we have to do that Friday. So prepping for that, as well as...
That's on the non-payroll.
Correct, okay. On the non-payroll week. And then on the payroll weeks, a lot of it is submitting payroll, making sure we're setting up payroll deductions for employees, any uniform deductions, advanced deductions, making sure everything is perfect for payroll so that we can submit with ease without problem. So that's usually our payroll weeks are probably our most hectic weeks, whereas the non-payroll weeks is where I do my reports for accounting purposes, as well as invoicing of the payroll and anything else that I need to catch up on in the payroll department. So.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Very comprehensive breakdown on your department. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
People, processes, technology, those three things is what lay the foundation for your department and also every other department. So for the viewers, I'll just segue into kind of more about the infrastructure of Elite Guard. Again, we've been around since the 80s, 1983 till now, so 42 years as of this year in business in the Tri-County area from Sunny Isles Beach, Broward County, all the way up until Palm Beach. That doesn't happen by mistake, that doesn't happen by accident, that happens by design. And so our design and our infrastructure is what has enabled us to be able to be a perfect provider of service. And so our Human Resources Department deals with all of our human relations aspects, unemployment claims, and all the bureaucracies that we have to deal with on the government agency level, like Mariah said. We have a school in addition to being an agency as well, and so we have a training manager that oversees that aspect. We have our front desk apparatus which deals with all of the incoming employees or applicants and candidates and so forth. So she has her own set of responsibilities, right? We have our dispatch department, which is basically the heartbeat of the company. They deal with all of the employees in terms of call outs, flat tires, my baby is sick, I'm sick, right? So that is the heartbeat of the company, probably one of the most important departments. We also have accounts payable, accounts receivable. Both executives are very hands-on at the company as well. We also have our client relations or client managers. They deal with all of our customers and clients, shaking hands, kissing babies, not shaking babies or kissing hands.
Especially after COVID.
Especially after COVID, can't do that, right? So they will make sure that our clients are happy. Our personnel manager or personnel department deals with all of the attraction and the recruitment of new talent, and they have to manage that talent after they've been hired for their respective portfolios. We have a fleet manager which deals with our fleet of vehicles, our golf carts, etc. And lastly and finally, you have me as the operator and the overseer of all those departments to make sure all the humans are behaving effectively and efficiently. And so that's how you establish an agency, in my estimation, for 42 years. How long have you been in the business now again?
4 years
About
now,
4 years, yeah.
In this particular business, yeah 4 years.
So 15 years for me as of this year, and there's a whole host of other people that, like I mentioned, in those departments that have been doing this for a very long time. So we know and understand the business and the industry on a very intimate level. We wanted to give you this conversation as a value add. For yourself as an individual, perhaps you're a company owner or an agency or someone just interested in service perhaps, to demonstrate to you that we are professionals, we know our business, and we are about our business in a very serious way, and we believe in excellence, we believe in efficiency, and we do think that excellence is achieved through the basics. And so this conversation should give you some insight and kind of that behind the curtain look at how we accomplish what we do. And 42 years and still counting, so we're looking forward to many more years under the sun in this industry, in serving you, the people, the customers, the clients, as well as the employees.
Hey guys, thank you guys so much for watching this video. We hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share and follow us for more. Thank you and have a great day.